Blessed love and peace. This is recitation of Tobadiko Kadao, Torah, Bhagavad Gita, Diganakaya Dhammapada, Gospels, Quran, and Tao Te Ching. It is portion numero 29, which is Acharei Mot, which includes from Torah, Parsha Acharei Mot, which is Vaikra 16:1 a 18:30, and from the Chandogya Upanishad, it is Kanda 4:10 a 15. From the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Visvarupa Darshana Yogahe numero 11. From Tao Te Ching, it is chapters 30 and 31. From Menke, it is chapter 9 of 28. From the Digha Nikaya, it is the Mahasudassana Sutta, numero 17, chapter 2. And from the Dhammapada, it is the Apamada Vaga, numero 2. From the Gospels, it is Luke, chapters 13 a 14. From the Quran, it is Surah As-Saba and Surah Al-Fatir, which are numero 34 y 35. And from the Kitab Yakdas, it is verse 153 a 171. Bismillah ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Dao ke dao fe chung dao min ke min fe chung min ja Rastafari. Deus noster qui es in cielo santificato nomen tuum. Vaheguru Sanam. Baruch atah Elohim, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kasanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'sok b'dvarai Torah. Amen. Baruch atah Elohim, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Sivamastu save jigatahim. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Fagabia. Akwaba upendo na amani. Tekiri iniselami. Chindadam peramian. Liobovamir, Womajaka, Ubuntu, Shubono, Fakitka. Sheshe, Kamosanida, Domo Arigato, Pilamayela Wonkantonka, Talk Adokushin Good, Gore Bed Agat. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata jam yata afanami. Bado, aho, om shanti shanti shanti. Amen. Torah, Acharei Mot, Vaikra 16:1 a 18:30. And Elohim spoke to Moshe after the death of Aaron's two sons when they drew near before Elohim and they died. And Elohim said to Moshe, speak to your brother Aaron that he should not come at all times into the holy within the dividing curtain in front of the cover that is upon the ark, so that he should not die, for I appear over the ark cover in a cloud. With this shall Aaron enter the holy, with a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall wear a holy linen shirt, and linen pants shall be upon his flesh. And he shall gird himself with a linen sash and wear a linen cap. These are holy garments. And therefore he shall immerse himself in water and don them. And from the community of the children of Israel he shall take 2 he-goats as a sin offering and 1 ram as a burnt offering. And Aaron shall bring his sin offering and initiate atonement for himself and for his household. And he shall take the 2 he-goats and place them before Elohim at the entrance to the tent of meeting. And Aaron shall place lots upon the 2 he-goats, 1 lot for Elohim, and the other lot for Azazel. And Aaron shall bring the he-goat upon which the lot for Elohim came up, and designate it as a sin offering. And the he-goat upon which the lot for Azazel came up, he shall be placed whilst still alive before Elohim, to initiate atonement upon it, and to send it away to Azazel into the desert. And Aaron shall bring his sin offering bull, and shall initiate atonement for himself and for his household, and he shall then slaughter his sin offering bull. And he shall take a pan full of burning coals from upon the altar from before Elohim, and both hands full of fine incense, and bring it within the dividing curtain. And he shall place the incense upon the fire before Elohim, so that the cloud of the incense shall envelop the ark cover that is over the tablets of testimony, so that he shall not die. And he shall take some of the bull's blood and sprinkle it with his index finger on top of the ark cover on the eastern side, and before the ark cover he shall sprinkle 7 times from the blood with his index finger. He shall then slaughter the he-goat of the people's sin offering, and bring its blood within the dividing curtain, and he shall do with its blood as he had done with the bull's blood, and he shall sprinkle it upon the ark cover and before the ark cover. And he shall effect atonement upon the holy from the defilements of the children of Israel, and from their rebellions and all their unintentional sins. He shall do likewise to the tent of meeting, which dwells with them amidst their defilements. And no man shall be in the tent of meeting when he comes to effect atonement in the holy until he comes out. And he shall effect atonement for himself, for his household, and for all the congregation of Israel. And he shall then go out to the altar that is before Elohim, and effect atonement upon it. He shall take some of the bull's blood and some of the he-goat's blood, and place it on the horns of the altar around. He shall then sprinkle some of the blood upon it with his index finger 7 times, and he shall cleanse it and sanctify it of the defilements of the children of Israel. And he shall finish effecting atonement for the holy, the tent of meeting, and the altar, and then he shall bring the live he-goat. And Aaron shall lean both of his hands forcefully upon the live he-goat's head, and confess upon it all the willful transgressions of the children of Israel, all their rebellions and all their unintentional sins, and he shall place them on the he-goat's head, and send it off to the desert with a timely man. The he-goat shall thus carry upon itself all their sins to a precipitous land, and he shall send off the he-goat into the desert. And Aaron shall enter the tent of meeting, and remove the linen garments that he had worn when he came into the holy, and there he shall store them away. And he shall immerse his flesh in a holy place, and don his garments. He shall then go out and offer his burnt offering and the people's burnt offering, and he shall effect atonement for himself and for the people. And he shall cause the fat of the sin offering to go up in smoke upon the altar, and the person who sent off the he-goat to Azazel shall immerse his garments and immerse his flesh in water, and after this he may come into the camp. And the sin offering bull and the he-goat of the sin offering, both of whose blood was brought to effect atonement in the holy, he shall take outside the camp, and they shall burn in fire their hides, their flesh, and their waste. And the person who burns them shall immerse his garments and immerse his flesh in water, and after this he may come into the camp. And all this shall be as an eternal statute for you. In the 7th month, on the 10th of the month, you shall afflict yourselves, and you shall not do any work, neither the native nor the stranger who dwells amongst you. For on this day Elohim shall effect atonement for you to cleanse you. Before Elohim you shall be cleansed from all your sins. It is a Shabbat of rest for you, and you shall afflict yourselves. It is an eternal statute. And the Kohen who is anointed or who is invested to serve in his far's stead shall effect this atonement, and he shall don the linen garments, the holy garments. And he shall effect atonement upon the Holy of Holies, and he shall effect atonement upon the tent of meeting and upon the altar, and he shall effect atonement upon the Kohanim and upon all the people of the congregation. All this shall be as an eternal statute for you to effect atonement upon the children of Israel for all their sins once each year. And he did as Elohim had commanded Moshe. And Elohim spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Aaron and to his sons and to all the children of Israel, and say to them, This is the thing Elohim has commanded, saying, Any man of the house of Israel who slaughters an ox, a lamb, or a goat inside the camp, or who slaughters outside the camp, but does not bring it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to offer as an offering to Elohim before the Mishkan of Elohim, this act shall be counted for that man as blood he has shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from amongst his people, in order that the children of Israel should bring their offerings which they slaughtered on the open field, and bring them to Elohim, to the entrance of the tent of meeting, to the Kohen, and slaughter them as peace offerings to Elohim. And the Kohen shall dash the blood upon the altar of Elohim at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and he shall cause the fat to go up in smoke as a pleasing fragrance to Elohim. And they shall no longer slaughter their offerings to the solders, after which they stray. This shall be an eternal statute for them for all their generations. And he shall say to them, any man of the house of Israel or of the strangers who will sojourn amongst them, who offers up a burnt offering or any other offering, but does not bring it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to make it an offering to Elohim, that man shall be cut off from his people. And any man of the house of Israel or of the strangers that sojourn amongst them, who eats any blood, I will set aside my attention upon the soul who eats the blood. I will cut him off from amongst his people. For the soul of the flesh is in the body, and I have therefore given it to you to be placed upon the altar to atone for your souls, for it is the blood that atones for the soul. Therefore I said to the children of Israel, none of you shall eat blood, and the stranger who sojourns amongst you shall not eat blood. And any man of the children of Israel or of the strangers who sojourn amongst them, who traps a quarry of a wild animal or bird that may be eaten and sheds its blood, he shall cover the blood with dust. For regarding the soul of all flesh, its blood is in its soul, and I said to the children of Israel, you shall not eat the blood of any flesh, for the soul of any flesh is its blood, and all who eat it shall be cut off. And any person, whether a native or a stranger, who eats carrion or what was torn, shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and shall remain unclean until evening, and then he shall become clean. But if he does not immerse his garments or immerse his flesh, he shall bear his sin. And Elohim spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, I am Elohim your God. Like the practice of the land of Egypt in which you dwelled, you shall not do. And like the practice of the land of Canaan, to which I am bringing you, you shall not do. And you shall not follow their statutes. You shall fulfill my ordinances and observe my statutes to follow them. I am Elohim your God. You shall observe my statutes and my ordinances, which a man shall do, and live by them. I am Elohim. No man shall come near to any of his close relatives to uncover their nakedness. I am Elohim. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your far or the nakedness of your more. She is your more. You shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your far's wife. It is your far's nakedness. The nakedness of your sister, whether your far's daughter or your more's daughter, whether born to one who may remain in the home or born to one who must be sent outside, you shall not uncover their nakedness. The nakedness of your son's daughter and your daughter's daughter, you shall not uncover their nakedness, for they are your own nakedness. The nakedness of the daughter of your far's wife, born to your far, she is your sister, you shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your far's sister, she is the close relative of your far. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your more sister, she is the close relative of your more. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your far's brother, you shall not come near his wife, she is your aunt. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law, she is your son's wife, you shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your brother's wife, it is your brother's nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter, and you shall not take in marriage her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness. They are close relatives, it is evil counsel. You shall not take a woman with her sister in marriage as rivals to uncover the nakedness of one upon the other in her lifetime. And to a woman during the uncleanness of her separation you shall not come near to uncover her nakedness. You shall not lie carnally with your neighbor's wife to become defiled by her. And you shall not give any of your offspring to pass through to Molech. And you shall not profane the name of your God. I am Elohim. You shall not lie down with a male as with a woman. This is an abomination. And with no animal shall you cohabit to become defiled by it. And a woman shall not stand in front of an animal to cohabit with it. This is depravity. You shall not defile yourselves by any of these things, for the nations whom I am sending away before you have defiled themselves with all these things. And the land became defiled, and I visited its sins upon it, and the land vomited out its inhabitants. But as for you, you shall observe my statutes and my ordinances, and you shall not do like any of those abominations, neither the native nor the stranger who sojourns amongst you. For the people of the land who preceded you did all these abominations, and the land became defiled. And let the land not vomit you out for having defiled it, as it vomited out the nation that preceded you. For anyone who commits any of these abominations, the persons doing so shall be cut off from the midst of their people. And you shall not observe my charge, not to commit any of the abominable practices that were done before you, and you shall not become defiled by them. I am Elohim your God. Chandogya Upanishads, Kanda 4:10-15. Upakosala, the son of Kamala, dwelt as a brahmachari, a religious student with Satyakama, the son of Jabalam. He tended his teacher's fires for 12 years. Satyakama allowed his other pupils to return to their homes after they had finished their Vedic studies, but did not allow Upakosala to depart. Then his wife said to him, "This brahmacharian practicing austerities has intelligently tended your fires. Give him instruction, lest the fires should blame you." The teacher, however, went away on a journey without teaching him. The brahmacharian, out of mental grief, began to fast. Then the teacher's wife said to him, "Brahmachari, why do you not eat?" He said, "There are in a man like me many desires directed to various objects. I am full of sorrow, I will not eat." Thereupon the fires said amongst themselves, "This brahmachari practicing austerities has intelligently tended us. Come, let us teach him." They said to him, "The prana is Brahman, Ka, joy is Brahman, Ka, the Akasha is Brahman." He said, "I understand that the prana is Brahman, but I do not understand joy, Ka, and the Akasha, Ka." They said, "What is joy? Ka is the Akasha, Ka. What is Akasha? Ka is joy, Ka." They taught him the prana, Brahman, and the Akasha related to it. Next, the Garpatya fire taught him, "The earth, fire, food, and the soleil are my forms. The being that is seen in the soleil, I am that being indeed. He who, knowing this, meditates on the fires, frees himself from sinful actions, obtains the world of Garpatya fire, reaches his full age, and lives brightly. His descendants do not perish. We support him in this world and in the other, who, knowing this, meditates on the fire." Then the Anvaharya southern fire taught him, "What are the quarters, the stars, and the moon are my forms. The being that is seen in the moon, I am that being indeed. He who, knowing this, meditates on the fire, frees himself from sinful actions, obtains the world of the Anvarya fire, reaches his full age, and lives brightly. His descendants do not perish. We support him in this world and in the other too, who knowing this, meditates on the fire." Then the Ahavaniya fire taught him, "The prana, the Akasha, heaven, and lightning are my forms. The being that is seen in lightning, I am that being indeed. He who, knowing this, meditates on the fire, frees himself from sinful actions, obtains the world of the Ahavaniya fire, reaches his full age, and lives brightly. His descendants do not perish. We support him in this world and in the other, who, knowing this, meditates on the fire." Then they all the fires, said, "Upakosala, dear friend, thus we have taught you the knowledge of ourselves and the knowledge of the self, but the teacher will teach you the way." The teacher returned and said to him, "Upakosala." He replied, "Revered sir, dear friend, your face shines like that of one who knows Brahman, who has taught you." "Who should teach me, sir?" Here he conceals the fact, as it were. And he said, pointing out to the fires, "For this reason they are of this form now, though they were of a different form before. Dear friend, what did they teach you?" This Upakosala replied, and repeated some of what fire had told him. The teacher says, "They told you, dear friend, only about the worlds, but I shall tell you about Brahman. As water does not cling to the lotus leaf, so no evil clings to the one who knows this." He said, "The being that is seen in the eye, that is the self, that this is the eternal living, the fearless, this is Brahman. That is why if one drops melted butter or water in the eye, it flows away on both sides." The seers call him Samyadvama, for all blessings Vama go towards him, Samyanti. All blessings go towards him who knows this. He is also Vamani, for he carries to living beings, Nayati, all blessings, Vama. He who knows this carries all blessings. He is also called Bhamani, for he shines Bhati in all the worlds. He knows this shines in all the worlds. He who knows this shines in all the worlds. Now whether or not they perform the funeral rites for such person, he goes to light, from light to day, from day to the bright half of the moon, from the bright half of the moon to the 6 months during which the soleil goes to the north, from those months to the year, from the year to the soleil, from the soleil to the moon, from the moon to lightning. Therefore a person who is not a human being meets him and leads him to Brahman. This is the path of the Devayana, the path leading to Brahman. Those who travel by it and do not return to the world of humanity, yea, they do not return. Bhagavad Gita the Visvarupa Darshanahe Yogahe. Onse. Arjuna says, out of compassion for me, you have spoken words of ultimate profundity concerning the self, and they have dispelled my delusion. I have learnt from you at length, O lotus-eyed Krishna, of the origin and dissolution of beings, and also of your inexhaustible greatness. As you have declared yourself to be, O Supreme Master, even so it is, yet do I desire to see your Ishvara form, O Supreme Purusha. If, O Master, you think me able to behold it, then, O Master of Yogis, reveal to me your immutable self. Sri Krishna says, behold my forms, O parted by the hundreds and the thousands, manifold and divines, various in shape and hue. Behold the Adityas and the Vasus and the Rudras and the twin Aswins and the Maruts. Behold, O Bharata, many wonders that no one has ever seen before. Behold here today Gudakesa, the whole universe, and of the moving and the unmoving, and whatever else you desire to see, all concentrated in my body. But with these eyes of yours you cannot see me. I give you a sacred eye. Behold now my sovereign yoga power. Sanjaya says, having spoken thus, O King Hari, the great master of yogi, revealed to Arjuna Brahman's supreme form as Ishvara. With many faces and eyes, presenting many wondrous sights, bedecked with many celestial ornaments, armed with many sacred uplifted weapons, wearing celestial garlands and vestments, anointed with sacred perfumes, all wonderful, resplendent, boundless, and with faces on all sides. If the radiance of 1,000 soleils were to burst forth at once in the sky, that would be like the splendor of the Mighty One. There, in the person of the god of angels, Arjuna beheld the whole universe with its manifold divisions, all gathered together in one. Then, overcome with wonder, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to the master, joined his palms in salutation, and thus addressed Brahma. Arjuna says, in thy body, O Master, I behold all the angels and all the diverse hosts of being, the Master Brahma, seated on the lotus, and all the rishis and the celestial serpents. I behold thee with myriads of arms and bellies, with myriads of faces and eyes. I behold the infinite in form on every side, but I see not thy end, nor thy middle, nor thy beginning, O Master of the universe, O universal form. I behold thee on all sides, glowing like a mass of radiance, with thy diadem and mace and discus, blazing everywhere like burning fire and the burning soleil, hard to look at and passing all measure. Thou art the imperishable, the supreme being to be realized. Thou art the supreme support of the universe. Thou art the undying guardian of eternal Dharma. Thou art, in my belief, the primal being. I behold thee as one without beginning, middle, or end, with infinite arms and immeasurable strength, with the soleil and moon as thine eyes, with thy face shining like a blazing fire, and burning with thy radiance the whole universe. By thee alone are filled all the space between heaven and earth, and all the quarters of the sky, O mighty one. The three worlds behold thy marvelous and appalling form, and tremble with fear. Into thee enter these hosts of angels, and some in feet extol thee with folded hands, and bands of rishis and siddhas exclaim, may there be peace, and praise thee with splendid hymns. The Rudras, Adityas, Vasus, and Saya, the Viswas, Aswins, Maruts, and Anushmapas, and the hosts of the Gandharvas, Yakshas, Asuras, and Siddhas all behold thee and are amazed. Beholding thy great form, O mighty Master, with myriads of mouths and eyes, with myriads of arms and thighs and feet, with myriads of bellies, and with myriads of terrible tusks, the worlds are affrighted, and so am I. When I look upon thy blazing form, reaching to the skies and shining in many colors, when I see thee with thy mouth opened wide and thy great eyes glowing bright, my inmost soul trembles in fear, and I find neither courage nor peace, O Vishnu. When I behold thy mouths striking terror with their tusks, like time's all-consuming fire, I am disoriented and find no peace. Be gracious, O Master of the angels, O abode of the universe. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, together with the hosts of monarchs and Bhishma, Drona, and Karna, and the warriors chiefs of our side as well, enter precipitately, thy tusked and terrible mouths frightful to behold. Some are seen caught between thy teeth, their heads crushed to powder. As the many torrents of the rivers rush towards the ocean, so do the heroes of the living world rush into thy fiercely flaming mouths. As mouths rush swiftly into a blazing fire to perish there, even so do these creatures swiftly rush into thy mouths to their destruction. Thou lookest thy lips devouring all the worlds on every side with thy flaming mouths. Thy fiery rays fill the whole universe with their radiance and scorch it, O Vishnu. Tell me who thou art that wearest this frightful form. Salutations to thee, O Supreme Master, have mercy. I desire to know thee, who art the primal one, for I do not understand thy purpose. Shri Krishna says, I am mighty, world-destroying time. Now engaged here in slaying these men, even without you, all these warriors standing arrayed in opposing armies shall not live. Therefore stand up and win in glory, conquer your enemies, and enjoy an opulent kingdom. By me and none other have they already been slain. By an instrument, be an instrument only, Arjuna. Kill Drona and Bhishma and Jayadratha and Karna and the great other warriors as well, who have already been killed by me. Do not distress by fear. Fight and you shall conquer your foes in the battle. Sanjaya says, having heard these words of Krishna, Arjuna trembled, folded his hands in adoration, and bowed down. Overwhelmed with fear, he saluted Krishna and then addressed Brahman again with faltering voice. Arjuna says, it is right, O Rishikesa, that the world rejoices and delights in glorifying thee. The Rakshasas flee on all sides in terror, and the hosts of Siddhas all bow to thee in adoration. And why should they not bow down to thee, O mighty being, greater than all, since thou art the primal cause even of Brahman? O infinite one, master of angels, abode of the universe, thou art the imperishable being and non-being, and that which is the supreme. Thou art the first of angels, the ancient soul. Thou art the supreme resting place of the universe. Thou art the knower, and that which is to be known, and the ultimate goal. And by thee is the world pervaded, O thou of infinite form. Thou art wind and death and fire and moon, and the master of water. Thou art Prajapati, the great grandsire. Salutations to thee 1,000 times, and again and yet again, salutations to thee. Salutations to thee before, salutations to thee behind, salutations to thee on every side. O all, infinite and mighty and immeasurable in strength, thou pervadest all, and therefore thou art all. Whatever I have rashly said from inadvertence or love, addressing thee as O Krishna, O Yadava, O friend, regarding thee merely as a friend, unaware of thy greatness, and in whatever other way I may have shown disrespect to thee, whilst playing or resting, whilst sitting or eating, whilst alone, O eternal master, or in the presence of others, all that I implore thee, O immeasurable, to forgive. Thou art the creator of all that move and all that do not move. Thou art the object of its worship, its most venerable teacher. There is no equal to thee. How then in the three worlds could there be another superior to thee, O thou of incomparable might? Therefore I bow down and prostrate myself before thee, the adorable, and seek thy grace. Bear with me, O Master, as a father with a son, as a friend with a friend, or as a lover with his beloved. I rejoice that I have seen what was never seen before, but my mind is also troubled with fear. Show me that other form of thine. Be gracious, O Master of angels, O abode of the universe. I would see thee as before, with thy crown and thy mace and the discus in thy hand. Assume again thy four-armed shape, O thou of 1,000 arms and of endless shapes. Sri Krishna says, by my grace, through my own yoga power, O Arjuna, I have shown you the supreme form, resplendent, universal, infinite, and primeval, which none but you has ever seen. Neither by the study of the Vedas and offerings, nor by gifts, nor by rituals, nor by severe penances is this form of mine to be seen in the world of men by anyone but you, O chief of the Kurus. Be not afraid, be not bewildered on seeing this terrific form of mine. Free from anger and glad at heart, behold again my other form. Sanjaya says, having thus addressed Arjuna, Vasudeva revealed to him Sri Krishna's own form. The Great One assumed a graceful shape again and comforted the terrified Pandava. Arjuna says, looking at this gentle form of yours, O Janardana, I feel composed in mind. I am myself again. Sri Krishna says, it is very hard to see this form of mine which you have seen. Even the angels are ever eager to see this form. Neither by the Vedas, nor by penances, nor by almsgiving, nor yet by offerings am I to be seen in the form in which you have now beheld me. But by devotion to me alone may I be known in this form, O Arjuna, realized truly and entered into, O dreaded prince. He who does my work and looks on me as the supreme goal, who is devoted to me, and who is without attachment and without hatred for any creature, he comes to me, O Pandava. Tao Te Ching 30 a 31. The one who utilizes the Tao to advise the ruler does not dominate the world with soldiers. Such methods tend to be returned. The place where the troops camp, thistles and thorns grow. Following the great army, there must be an inauspicious year. A benevolent commander achieves result, then stops, and does not dare to reach for domination. Achieves result, but does not brag. Achieves result, but does not flaunt. Achieves result, but is not arrogant. Achieves result, but only out of necessity. Achieves result, but does not dominate. Things become strong and then get old. This is called contrary to the Tao. That which is contrary to the Tao soon ends. Tao Te Ching, chapter 31. A strong military, a tool of misfortune. All things detest it. Therefore, those who possess the Tao avoid it. Honorable gentlemen, whilst at home, value the left. When deploying the military, value the right. The military is a tool of misfortune, not the tool of honorable gentlemen. When utilizing it out of necessity, calm detachment should be above all. Victorious, but without glory. Those who glorify are delighting in the killing. Those who delight in killing cannot achieve their ambitions upon the world. Auspicious events favor the left, inauspicious events favor the right. The lieutenant governor is positioned to the left, the major general is positioned to the right. We see that they are treated as if in a funeral. Those who have been killed should be grieved with sadness. Victory in war should be treated as a funeral. Menke, chapter 9. When the prince afterwards, Duke Wen of Tong, had to go to Chu, he goes by way of Song and visits Menke. Menke discourses to him on how the nature of man is benevolent, and when speaking always makes laudatory reference to Yao and Shun. When the prince was returning from Chu, he again visits Menke. Menke says to him, "Prince, do you not doubt my words? The path is one, and only one." Chenggong says to Duke Jing of Qi, "They were men, I am a man, why should I stand in awe of them?" Yan Yuan says, "What kind of man was Shun? What kind of man am I? He who exerts himself will also become such as he was." Gong Mingyi says, "King Wen is my teacher, how should the Duke of Zhao deceive me by those words?" Now tongue taking its length with its breadth will amount, I suppose, to 50 li. But it is small, but still sufficient to make a benevolent state. It is said in the book of history, if medicine do not raise a commotion in the patient, his disease will not be cured by it. When the Duke Ding of Tong dies, the prince says to Ran Yu, "Formerly Menke spoke with me in song, and in my mind I have never forgotten his words. Now, alas, the great duty to my far devolves upon me. I wish to send you to ask the advice of Menke, and then to proceed to its various services." Ran Yu accordingly proceeds to Zhao and consults Menke. Menke says, "Is this not benevolent? In discharging the funeral duties to parents, men indeed feel constrained to do their utmost." The philosopher Zong says, "When parents are alive, they should be served according to propriety. When they are dead, they should be buried according to propriety, and they should be offered to according to propriety. This may be called filial piety. The ceremonies to be observed by the princes I have not learned, but I have heard these points: that the 3 years grieving the garment of coarse cloth will with its lower edge even, and the eating of kanji were equally prescribed by the 3 dynasties, and binding on all, from the sovereign to the mass of the people." Ran Yu reports the execution of his commission, and the prince determines that the 3 years of grieving should be observed. His aged relatives, the body of the officers, did not wish that it should be so, and say, "The former princes of Lu, that kingdom which we honor, have none of them observed this practice, neither have any of our former princes observed it. For you to act contrary to their example is not proper." Further, the history says, "In the observances of grieving and offering, ancestors are to be followed," meaning that they receive those things from a proper source to hand them down. The prince says again to Ran Yu, "Hitherto I have not given myself to the pursuit of learning, but have found pleasure in horsemanship and sword exercise, and now I don't come up to the wishes of my aged relatives, but and the officers. I am afraid I might not be able to discharge my duty in the great business that I have entered on. Do you again consult Menke for me?" On this, Ran Yu goes again to Zhao and consults Menke. Menke says, "It is so, but he may not seek a remedy in others, but only in himself." Confucius says, "When a prince dies, his successor entrusts the administration to the prime minister. He sips the kanji, his face is of a deep blank. He approaches the place of grieving and weeps. Of all the officers and inferior ministers, there is not one who will presume not to join in the lamentation. He setting them this example: what the superior man loves, his inferiors will be found to love exceedingly. The relation between superiors and inferiors is like that between wind and grass. The grass must bend when the wind blows upon it. The business depends on the prince. Banyu returns with his answer to his commission, and the prince says, "It is so. The matter does indeed depend on me." So for 5 months he dwelt in the shade without issuing an order or a caution. All the officers and his relatives say he may be said to understand the ceremonies. When the time of interment arrives, they came from all quarters of the state to witness it. Those who had come from other states to console him were greatly pleased with the deep dejection of his countenance and the mournfulness of his wailing and weeping. The Duke Wen of Tong asks Manchu about the proper way of governing a kingdom. Manchu says, "The business of the people may not be remissly attended to. It is said in the book of poetry, 'In the daylight go and gather the grass, and at night twist your ropes. Then get up quickly on the roofs. Soon must we begin sowing again, and soon must we begin sowing again the grain.' The way of the people is this: if they have a certain livelihood, they will have a fixed heart. If they have not a certain livelihood, they have not a fixed heart. If they have not a fixed heart, there is nothing which they will not do in the way of self-abandonment, of virtue deflection, of depravity, of a wild license. When they have thus been involved in crime, to follow them up and punish them, this is to entrap the people. How can such a thing as entrapping the people be done under the rule of a benevolent man? Therefore, a ruler who is endowed with talents and virtue will be gravely complacent and economical, showing a respectful politeness to his ministers and taking from the people only in accordance with regulated limits." Young Hu says, "He who seeks to be rich will not be benevolent. He who wishes to be benevolent will not be rich." The sovereign of the Jia dynasty enacts the 50 mu allotment and the payment of a tax. The founder of the Yin enacted the 70 mu allotment and the system of mutual aid. The founder of Zhao enacted the 100 mu allotment and the share system. In actuality, what was paid in all these was a tithe. The share system means mutual division. The aid system means mutual dependence. Long says, "For regulating the lands there is no better system than that of mutual aid, and none which is not better than that of taxing. But the tax system, the regular amount was fixed by taking the average of several years. In benevolent years, when the grain lies about in abundance, much might be taken without its being oppressive, and the actual exaction would be small. But in bad years, the produce being not sufficient to repay the manuring of the field, the system still requires the taking of the full amount. When the parent of the people causes the people to wear looks of distress, and after the whole year's toil, yet not to be able to nourish their parents, so that they proceed to borrowing to increase their means, till the old people and children are found lying in the ditches and water channels, where in such a case is his parental relation to the people. As to the system of hereditary salaries that is already observed in Tongue, it is said in the book of poetry, 'May the rain come down on our public field, and then upon our private fields.' It is only in the system of mutual aid that there is a public field, and from this passage we perceive that even in the Zhao dynasty this system has been recognized. Establish Cha, Ci, and Cao, all those educational institutions for the instruction of the people. The name Tong indicates nourishing as its object, Cao indicates teaching, and Zi indicates archery. By the Ta dynasty, the name Cao was utilized. By the Yin, that of Zi, and by the Zhao, that of Tiang. As to the Cui, they belong to the 3 dynasties, and by that name. The object of them all is to illustrate the human relations. When those are thus illustrated by superiors, kindly feeling will prevail amongst the inferior people below. Should a genuine sovereign arise, he will certainly come and take an example from you, and thus you will be the teacher of the true sovereign. It is said in the book of poetry, although Zhao was an old country, it received a new destiny. That is said with reference to King Wen. Do you practice those things with vigor, and you also will by them make your new kingdom." The Duke afterwards sends Bi Zhang to consult Minke about the 9 square system of dividing the land. Minke says to him, "Since your prince, wishing to put in practice a benevolent government, has made choice of you and put you into his employment, you must exert yourself to the utmost. Now the first thing towards a benevolent government must be to lay down the boundaries. If the boundaries be not defined correctly, the division of the land into squares will not be equal, and the produce available for salaries will not be evenly distributed. On this account, oppressive rulers and impure ministers are sure to neglect this defining of the boundaries. When the boundaries have been defined correctly, the division of the fields and the regulation of allowances may be determined by you, sitting at your ease. Although the territory of Tang is narrow and small, yet there may be in it men of superior grade, and there must be in it countrymen. If there were not men of a superior grade, there would be none to rule the countrymen. If there were not countrymen, there would be none to support the men of superior grade. I would ask you, in the remoter districts observing the 9 square division, to preserve one division to be cultivated on the system of mutual aid, and in the further central parts of the kingdom, to make the people pay for themselves a 10th part of their produce, from the highest officers down to the lowest. Each one must have his holy field consisting of 50 mu. Let the supernumerary males have their 25 mu. On occasion of death, of removal from one dwelling to another, there will be no quitting the district. In the fields of a district, those who belong to the same 9 quarters render all friendly offices to one another in their going out and coming in, aid one another in keeping watch and ward, and sustain one another in sickness. A square league covers 9 squares of land, which 9 squares contain 900 mu. The central square is the public field, and 8 families, each having its private 100 mu, cultivate in common the public field, and not till the public work is finished may they presume to attend to their private affairs. This is the way by which the countrymen are distinguished from those of a superior grade. Those are the great outlines of the system. Happily, to modify and adapt it depends on the prince and you." The Digha Nikaya, the Mahasudanasana Sutta numero 17, chapter 2. Now there occurred unto this thought to the great King of Glory, of what previous character now may this be the fruit of what previous character the result that I am now so mighty and so great? And then occurred unto the great King of Glory this thought, of 3 qualities is this the fruit of 3 qualities the result that I am now so mighty and so great, that is to say, of giving, of self-conquest, and of self-control. Now the great King of Glory ascended up into the chamber of the great complex, and when he had come there, he stood at the door, and there he broke out into a cry of intense emotion. Stay here, O thoughts of lust. Stay here, O thoughts of ill will. Stay here, O thoughts of hatred. Thus distant only, O thoughts of lust. Thus much only, O thoughts of ill will. Thus much only, O thoughts of hatred. And when anon the great King of Glory had entered the chamber of the great complex, and had seated himself upon the couch of gold, having put away all passion and all unrighteousness, he entered into and remained in the first jhana, a state of joy and ease, born of seclusion, full of reflection, full of investigation. By suppressing reflection and investigation, he entered into and remained in the second jhana, a state of joy and ease, born of serenity, without reflection, without investigation, a state of elevation of mind, of internal calm. By the absence of longing after joy, he remained indifferent, conscious, self-possessed, experiencing in his body that ease which the noble ones announce, saying, "The man indifferent and self-possessed is well at ease," and thus he entered into and remained in the third jhana. By putting away ease, by putting away pain, by the previous dying away both of gladness and of sorrow, he entered into and remained in the fourth jhana, state of purified self-possession and equanimity without ease and without pain. Then Ananda, the great king of glory, went out from the chamber of the great complex and entered the great golden chamber, and he sat himself down on the silver couch. And he let his mind pervade one quarter of the world with thoughts of love, and so the second quarter, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere did he continue to pervade with heart of love, distant reaching, grown great, and beyond measure, free from the least trace of anger or ill will. And he let his mind pervade one quarter of the world with thoughts of pity, and so the second quarter, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere did he continue to pervade with heart of pity, distant reaching, grown great, and beyond measure, free from the least trace of anger or ill will. And he let his mind pervade one quarter of the world with thoughts of sympathy, and so the second quarter, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere did he continue to pervade with heart of sympathy, distant reaching, grown great, and beyond measure, free from the least trace of anger or ill will. And he let his mind pervade one quarter of the world with thoughts of equanimity, and so the second quarter, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere did he continue to pervade with heart of equanimity, distant reaching, grown great, and beyond measure, free from the least trace of anger or ill will. The great king of glory Ananda had 480,000 cities, the chief of which was the royal city of Kusavati, 480,000 palaces, the chief of which was the palace of righteousness, 480,000 chambers, the chief of which was the chamber of the great complex, 480,000 divans of gold and silver and ivory and sandalwood, spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers, and magnificent antelope skins covered with lofty canopies and provided at both ends with purple cushions. 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags, and golden coverings of network, of which the king of elephants, called the changes of the moon, was chief. 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags, and golden coverings of network, of which Thundercloud, the king of the horses, was the chief. 480,000 chariots with coverings of the skins of lions and of tigers and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory was the chief. 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem was the chief. 480,000 wives, of whom the queen of glory was the chief. 480,000 yeomen, of whom the wonderful steward was the chief. 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor was the chief. 480,000 cows with jute trappings and horns tipped with bronze. 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate textures, of flax, of cotton and silk and wool. 480,000 dishes in which the evening and in the matin rice was served. Now at that time Ananda, the 480,000 state elephants used to come every matin and after matin to be of service to the great king of glory. And this thought occurred to the great king of glory: these 80,000 elephants come every evening and every matin to be of service to me. Now let the elephants come, O my friend, the great advisor, in alternate 40,000s, once each every alternate 100 years. Then Ananda, the great king of glory, said to the great advisor, O my friend, the great advisor, these 80,000 elephants come every evening and every matin to be of service to me. Now let the elephants come, O my friend, the great advisor, in alternate 40,000s, once each every alternate 100 years. Even so, Master, said the wonderful advisor in assent to the great king of glory. From that time Ananda, the elephants came in alternate 40,000s, once each every alternate 100 years. Now Ananda, after the lapse of many years, of many hundred years, of many thousand years, there occurred to the queen of glory this thought: 'Tis long since I have beheld the great king of glory. Suppose now I were to go and visit the great king of glory. Then Ananda, the queen of glory, said to the women of the harem, Arise now, dress your hair, and clad yourselves in fresh raiment. 'Tis long since we have beheld the great king of glory. Let us go and visit the great king of glory. Even so, lady, said the woman of the harem, Ananda, in assent to the queen of glory. And they dressed their hair, and clad themselves in fresh raiment, and came near to the queen of glory. Then Ananda, the queen of glory, said to the great advisor, Arrange, O great advisor, the fourfold army in array. 'Tis long since I have beheld the great king of glory. I am about to go visit the great king of glory. Even so, O queen, said the great advisor, Ananda, in assent to the queen of glory. And he set the fourfold army in array, and had the fact announced to the queen of glory in the words, The fourfold army, O queen, is set for thee in array. Do now whatever seemeth to thee fit. Then Ananda, the great queen of glory, with the fourfold army, repaired with the women of the harem to the palace of righteousness. And when she had arrived there, she mounted up into the palace of righteousness and went up onto the chamber of the great complex. And when she had reached it, she stopped and leant against the side of the door. When Anan, the great king of glory, heard the noise, he thought, "What now may this noise as a great multitude of people mean?" And going out from the chamber of the great complex, he beheld the queen of glory standing, leaning up against the side of the door. And when he beheld her, he said to the queen of glory, "Stop there, O queen, enter not." Then the great king of glory, Ananda, said to one of his attendants, "Arise, benevolent man, take the golden couch out of the chamber of the great complex, and make it ready under that grove of palm trees, which is all of gold." "Even so, master," said the man, in assent to the great king of glory. And he took the golden couch out of the chamber of the great complex, and made it ready under the grove of palm trees, which was all of gold. Then Ananda, the great king of glory, laid himself down in the dignified way a lion does, and laid with one leg resting on the other, calm and self-possessed. Then Ananda, there occurred to the queen of glory this thought: "How calm are all the limbs of the great king of glory! How clear and bright is his appearance! Oh, may it not be that the great king of glory is dead?" And she said to the great king of glory, Thine, O king, are those 480,000 cities, the chief of which is the royal city of Kusavati. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 palaces, the chief of which is the palace of righteousness. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 chambers, the chief of which is the chamber of the great complex. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 divans of gold and silver and ivory and sandalwood, spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers and magnificent antelope skins, covered with lofty canopies and provided at both ends with purple cushions. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which the king of elephants, called the changes of the moon, is chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags of golden coverings of network, of which Thundercloud, the king of the horses, is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 chariots with coverings of the skins of lions and of tigers and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 wives, of whom the queen of glory is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 young men, of whom the wonderful steward is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 cows with jute trappings and horns tipped with bronze. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate textures, of flax and cotton and silk and wool. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 dishes in which in the evening and in the matin rice is served. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. When she had spoken, Ananda, the great king of glory, said to the queen of glory, Long hast thou addressed me, O queen, in pleasant words, much to be desired and sweet. Yet now is the last time you speak in this last time you speak in words unpleasant, disagreeable, not to be desired. How then, O king, shall I address thee? Thus, O king, should thou address me. The nature of all things near and dear to us, O king, is such that we must leave them, divide ourselves from them, separate ourselves from them, pass not away, O king, with longing in thy heart. Sad is the death of him who longs, unworthy is the death of him who longs. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 cities, the chief of which is the royal city of Kusavati. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 palaces, the chief of which is the palace of righteousness. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 chambers, the chief of which is the chamber of the great complex. Arise, cast away desire for these, long after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 divans of gold and silver and ivory and sandalwood, spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers and magnificent antelope skins covered with lofty canopies and provided at both ends with purple cushions. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden carvings of network, and of which the king of elephants called the changes of the moon is chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which Thundercloud, the king of horses, is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 chariots with coverings of the skins of lions and of tigers and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 wives, of whom the queen of glory is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 yeomen, of whom the wonderful steward is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 cows with jute trappings and horns tipped with bronze. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate texture, of flax and cotton and silk and wool. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 dishes, in which in the evening and in the midtime rice is served. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. When he thus spake, Ananda, the great queen of glory, wept and poured forth tears. Then Ananda, the queen of glory, wiped away her tears, and addressed the great king of glory, and said, The nature of all things near and dear to us, O king, is such that we must leave them, divide ourselves from them, separate ourselves from them. Pass not away, king, with longing, in thy heart saddened is the death of him who longs, unworthy is the death of him who longs. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 cities, the chief of which is the royal city of Kusavati. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 palaces, the chief of which is the palace of righteousness. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 chambers, the chief of which is the chamber of the great complex. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 divans of gold and silver and ivory and sandalwood, spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers and magnificent antelope skins, covered with lofty canopies, and provided at both ends with purple cushions. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which the king of elephants called the changes of the moon is chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which Thundercloud, the king of horses, is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 chariots with coverings of the skins of lions and of tigers and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 wives, of whom the queen of glory is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 yeomen, of whom the wonderful steward is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 cows with jute trappings and horns tipped with bronze. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate textures of flax and cotton and silk and wool. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 dishes, in which in the evening and in the midtime rice is served. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Then immediately Ananda, the great king of glory, died. Just Ananda, as when a yeoman has eaten a hearty meal, he becomes all drowsy. Just so were the feelings he experienced. Ananda, as death came upon the great king of glory. When the great king of glory, Ananda, had died, he came to life again in the happy world of Brahma. For 48,000 years, Ananda, the great king of glory, lived the happy life of a prince. For 48,000 years, he was viceroy and heir apparent. For 48 years, he ruled a kingdom. For 48,000 years, he lived as a layman, the noble life in the palace of righteousness. And then, when full of noble thoughts he died, he entered after the dissolution of the body in the noble world of Brahma. Now it may be, Ananda, that you may think the great king of glory of that time was another person, but Ananda, you should not view the matter thus. I at that time was the great King of glory. Mine at the time were the 480,000 cities, of which the chief was the royal city of Kusavati. Mine were the 480,000 palaces, of which the chief was the palace of righteousness. Mine were the 480,000 chambers, of which the chief was the chamber of the great complex. Mine were the 480,000 divans of gold and of silver and ivory and sandalwood, spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers and magnificent antelope skins, covered with lofty canopies and provided at both ends with purple cushions. Mine were the 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of a network, of which the king of elephants, called the changes of the moon, was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of a network, of which the thundercloud, the king of horses, was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 chariots with coverings of the skins of lions and of tigers and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 wives, of whom the queen of glory was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 yeomen, of whom the wonderful steward was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 cows with jute trappings and horns tipped with bronze. Mine were the 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate textures of flax and cotton and silk and wool. Mine were the 480,000 dishes in which in the evening in the matin rice was served. Of those 480,000 cities, another one was that city in which at that time I used to dwell, to wit the royal city of Kusavati. Of those 480,000 palaces, to another one was that palace in which at that time I used to dwell, to wit the palace of righteousness. Of those 480,000 chambers, to another one was that chamber in which at that time I used to dwell, to wit the great chamber of the chamber of the great complex. Of those 480,000 divans, to another one was that divan which at that time I used to occupy, to wit one of gold or one of silver or one of ivory or one of sandalwood. Of those 480,000 state elephants, to another one was that elephant with which at that time I used to ride, to wit the king of elephants, the changes of the moon. Of those 480,000 horses, to another one was that horse which at that time I used to ride, to wit the king of horses, the thunder cloud. Of those 480,000 chariots, to another one was that chariot in which at that time I used to ride, to wit the chariot called the flag of victory. Of those 480,000 wives, to another one was that wife who at that time used to wait upon me, to wit either a lady of noble birth or Velamikani. Of those 480,000 myriads of suits of apparel, to another one was the suit of apparel which at that time I wore, to wit one of delicate texture or of linen or cotton or wool or silk or wool. Of those 480,000 dishes, to another one was that dish from which at that time I ate a measure of rice and the curry suitable thereto. See, Ananda, how all these things are now past, are ended, have vanished away. Thus impermanent, Ananda, are all our component things. Thus transitory, Ananda, are component things. Just untrustworthy, Ananda, are component things. Insomuch, Ananda, is it meet to be wary of? Is it meet to be estranged from? Is it meet to be set quite free from the bondage of all component things? Now I call to mind, Ananda, how in this spot my body had been 6 times buried. But when I was dwelling here as the righteous king who ruled in righteousness, the master of the 4 regions of the earth, the conqueror, the protector of his people, the possessor of the 7 royal treasures, that was the 7th time. Now I behold not any spot, Ananda, in the world of men and angels, nor in the world of Mara, nor in the world of Brahma, no, not amongst the race of Samanas and Brahmanas, of angels of men, where the Tathagata for the 8th time will lay aside his body. They thus spake the blessed one, and when the having one had thus spoken, once again the teacher said, how transient are all component things, growth is their nature and decay. They are produced, they are dissolved again. Their stillness is happiness. Dhammapada, the Apamada Vaga, numero 2. Heedfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness is the path to death. The heedful die not, the heedless are as if dead already. Clearly understanding this excellence of heedfulness, the wise exult therein and enjoy the resort of the noble ones. The wise ones, ever meditative, and steadfastly persevering alone experience nibbana, the incomparable freedom from bondage. Ever grows the glory of him who is energetic, mindful, and pure in conduct, discerning and self-controlled, righteous and heedful. By effort and heedfulness, discipline and self-mastery, let the wise one make for himself an island which no flood can overwhelm. The foolish and ignorant indulge in heedlessness, but the wise one keeps his heedfulness as his best treasure. Do not give way to heedlessness. Do not indulge in sensual pleasures. Only the heedful and meditative attain great happiness. Just as one upon the summit of a mountain beholds the groundlings, even so when the wise man casts away heedlessness by heedfulness and ascends the high tower of wisdom, this sorrowless sage beholds the sorrowing and foolish multitude. Heedful amongst the heedless, wide awake amongst the sleepy, the wise man advances like a swift horse, leaving behind a weak jade. By heedfulness did Indra become the overmaster of the angels. Heedfulness is ever honored, and heedlessness ever despised. The monk who delights in heedfulness and looks with fear at heedlessness advances like fire, burning all fetters, small and large. The monk who delights in heedfulness and looks with fear at heedlessness will not fall. He is close to nibbana. Luke chapters 13 a 14 from the Gospels. Now there were some present at that time who told Jesus about the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mixed with their offerings. Jesus answered, "Do you think that these Galileans were worse sinners than all the other Galileans because they suffered this way? I tell you, no, but unless you repent, you too will all perish. Or those 18 who died when the tower in Siloam fell on them. Do you think they were further guilty than all the others living in Jerusalem? I tell you, no, but unless you repent, you too will all perish." Then he told this parable. A man had a fig tree growing in his vineyard, and he went to look for fruit on it, but did not find any. So he said to the man who took care of the vineyard, "For 3 years now I've been coming to look for fruit on this fig tree, and haven't found any. Cut it down. Why should it utilize up the soil?" "Sir," the man replied, "leave it alone for the year, and I'll dig around it and fertilize it. If it bears fruit next year, fine. If not, then cut it down." On Shabbat, Jesus was teaching in one of the synagogues, and a woman was there who had been crippled by a spirit 18 years, and she was bent over and could not straighten up at all. When Jesus saw her, he called her forward and said to her, "Woman, you are set free from your infirmity." Then he put his hands on her, and immediately she straightened up and praised God. Indignant because Jesus had healed on Shabbat, the synagogue leader said to the people, "There are 6 days for work, so come and be healed on those days, not on Shabbat." The master answered him, "You hypocrites, doesn't each of you on Shabbat untie your ox or donkey from the stall and lead it out to give it water? Then should not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan has kept bound for 18 long years, be set free on Shabbat from what bound her?" When he said this, all the opponents were humiliated, but the people were delighted with all the wonderful things he was doing. Then Jesus asked, "What is the sovereignty of God like? What shall I compare it to? It is like a mustard seed which a man took and planted in his garden. It grew and became a tree, and the birds perched in its branches." Again he asked, "What shall I compare the sovereignty of God to? It is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough." Then Jesus went through the towns and villages, teaching as he made his way to Jerusalem. Someone asked him, "Master, are only a few people going to be saved?" He said to them, "Make every effort to enter through the narrow door, because many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able to. Once the owner of the house gets up and closes the door, you will stand outside knocking and pleading, 'Sir, open the door for us.' But he will answer, 'I do not know you or where you come from.' Then you will say, 'We ate and drank with you, and you taught in our streets.' But he will reply, 'I don't know you or where you come from. Away from me, all you evildoers.' There will be weeping there and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, and all the prophets in the sovereignty of God, but you yourselves thrown out. People will come from east and west and north and south, and will take their places at the feast of in the sovereignty of God. Indeed, there are those who are last who will be first, and first who will be last." At that time, some Pharisees came to Jesus and said to him, "Leave this place and go somewhere else, Herod wants to kill you." He replied, "Go tell that fox, I will keep on driving out demons and healing people today and mañana, and on the third day I will reach my goal. In any case, I must press on today and mañana and the next day, for surely no prophet can die outside Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, you who kill the prophets and stone those who sent to you, how often I have longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you are not willing. Look how your house has left you desolate. I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, Blessed is he who comes in the name of God." One Shabbat, when Jesus went to eat in the house of a prominent Pharisee, he was being carefully watched. There in front of him was a man suffering from abnormal swelling of his body. Jesus asked the Pharisees and experts in the law, "Is it lawful to heal on Shabbat or not?" But they remained silent. So taking hold of the man, he healed him and sent him on his way. Then he asked them, "If one of you has a child or an ox that it falls into a well on Shabbat, will you not immediately pull it out?" And they had nothing to say. When he noticed how the guests picked the places of honor at the table, he told them this parable. When someone invites you to a wedding feast, do not take the place of honor, for a person further distinguished than you may have been invited. If so, the host who invited both of you will come and say to you, "Give this person your seat." Then humiliated, you will have to take the least important place. But when you are invited, take the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he will say to you, "Friend, move up to a better place." Then you will be honored in the presence of all the other guests. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Then Jesus said to his host, "When you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or sisters, your relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back, and so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous." When one of those at the table with him heard this, he said to Jesus, Blessed is the one who will eat at the feast in the sovereignty of God." Jesus replied, "A certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. At the time of the banquet, he sent his servant to tell those who had been invited to come, for everything is now ready. But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, "I have just bought a field and I must go and see it. Please excuse me." Another said, "I have just bought 5 yoke of oxen and I'm on my way to try them out. Please excuse me." Still another said, "I just got married, so I can't come." The servant came back and reported this to his master. Then the owner of the house became angry and ordered his servant, "Go out quickly into the streets and alleys of the town and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the maimed." "Sir," the servant said, what you ordered has been done, but there is still room." Then the master told his servant, "Go out to the roads and country lanes and compel them to come in, so that my house will be full. I tell you, not one of those who were invited will get a taste of my banquet." Large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate far and more wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower, but you won't first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, 'This person began to build and wasn't able to finish.' Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation whilst the other is still a long way off, and will ask for terms of peace. In the following way, those of you who do not give up everything you cannot be my disciples. Salt is beneficial, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is neither fit for soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown out. Whoever has ears to hear, let them hear." Quran, Surah Saba and Surah Al-Fatir 34-35. Surah As-Saba. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, to whom belong all things in the heavens and on earth. To Allah be praise in the hereafter, and Allah is full of wisdom, acquainted with all things. Allah knows all that goes on into the earth, and all that comes out thereof, all that comes down from the sky, and all that ascends thereto, and Allah is the most merciful, the all-forgiving. The unbelievers say, never to us will come the hour. Say, nay, but most surely by my Lord it will come upon you, by Allah who knows the unseen, from whom is not hidden the least little atom in the heavens or on earth, nor is there anything less than that or greater, but is in the record perspicuous, that Allah may reward those who believe and work deeds of righteousness, for such is forgiveness and a sustenance most generous. But those who strive against our signs to frustrate them, for such will be a penalty, a punishment most humiliating. And those to whom knowledge has come, see that the revelation sent down to thee from thy Lord, that is the truth, and that it guides to the path of the exalted in might, worthy of all praise. The unbelievers say in ridicule, shall we point out to you a man that will tell you, when ye are all scattered to portions in disintegration, that ye shall then be raised in a new creation? Has he invented a falsehood against Allah, or has a spirit seized him? Nay, it is those who believe not in the hereafter that are in true penalty and in furthest error. See they not what is before them and behind them of the sky and the earth? If we wished, we could cause the earth to swallow them up, or cause a portion of the sky to fall upon them. Verily, this is a sign for every devotee that turns to Allah in repentance. We bestowed grace aforetime on David from ourselves. O ye mountains, sing ye back the praises of Allah with him, and ye birds also, and we made the iron soft for him, commanding, make thou coats of mail, balancing well the rings of chain armor, and work ye righteousness, for be sure I see clearly all that ye do. And to Solomon we made the wind obedient. Its early matin stride was a month's journey, and its evening stride was a month's journey. And we made a font of molten brass to flow for him. And there were jinns that worked in front of him by the leave of his Lord, and if any of them turned aside from our command, we made him taste of the penalty of the blazing fire. They worked for him as he desired, making arches, images, basins as large as reservoirs, and cooking cauldrons fixed in their places. Work ye, sons of David, with thanks, but few of my servants are grateful. When we decreed Solomon's death, nothing showed them his death except a little worm of the earth, which kept slowly gnawing away at his staff. So when he fell down, the jinns saw plainly that if they had known the unseen, they would not have tarried in the humiliating penalty of their task. There was for Sabah aforetime a sign in their homeland, 2 gardens to the right and to the left, each of the sustenance provided by your Lord, and be grateful to Allah, a territory fair and happy, and a Lord all-forgiving. But they turned away from Allah, and we sent against them the flood released from the dams, and we converted their 2 garden rows into gardens producing bitter fruit and tamarisks, and some few stunted lote trees. That was the requital we gave them, because they ungratefully rejected faith, and never do we give such requital except to such as are ungrateful rejectors. Between them and the cities on which we had poured our blessings, we had placed cities in prominent positions, and between them we had appointed stages of journey in due proportion, travel therein, secure by night and by day. But they said, our Lord place longer distances between our journey stages, but they wronged themselves therein. At length we made them as a tale that is old, and we despised them all in scattered fragments. Verily, in this are signs for every soul that is patiently constant and grateful. And on them did Satan prove true his idea, and they followed him, and all but a party that believed. But he had no authority over them, except that we might test the man who believes in the hereafter from him who is in doubt concerning it, and thy Lord doth watch over all things. Say, call upon other deities whom ye fancy besides Allah. They have no power, not the weight of an atom in the heavens or on earth. No sort of shape have they therein, nor is any of them a helper to Allah. No intercession can avail in Allah's presence except for those for whom Allah has granted permission. So much is this the case that when terror is removed from their hearts at the day of judgment, then will they say, what is that your Lord commanded? They will say, that which is true and just, and Allah is the most high, most great. Say, who gives you sustenance from the heavens and the earth? Say, it is Allah, and certain it is that either we or ye are on right guidance or in manifest error. Say, ye shall not be questioned as to our sins, nor shall we be questioned as to what ye do. Say, our Lord will gather us together, and will in the end decide the matter between us and you in truth and justice, and Allah is the one to decide, the one who knows all. Say, show me those whom ye have joined with Allah as partners. By no means can ye. Nay, Allah is Allah, the exalted in power, the wise. We have not sent thee but as a universal messenger to men, giving them glad tidings and warning them against sin, but most men understand not. They say, when will this promise come to pass, if ye are telling the truth? Say, the appointment to you is for a day which ye cannot put back for an hour, nor put forward. The unbelievers say, we shall neither believe in this scripture nor in any other that came before it. Couldst thou but see that when the wrongdoers will be made to stand before their Lord, throwing back the word of blame on one another? Those who had been despised will say to the arrogant ones, had it not been for you, we should certainly have been believers. The arrogant ones will say to those who had been despised, what was it we who kept you back from guidance after it reached you? Nay, rather, it was ye who transgressed. Those who had been despised will say to the arrogant ones, nay, it was our plot of yours by day and by night. Behold, ye constantly ordered us to be ungrateful to Allah, and to attribute equals to Allah. They will declare their repentance when they see the penalty. When we shall put yokes on the necks of the unbelievers, it would only be a requital for their deeds. Never did we send a warner to a population, but the wealthy ones amongst them said, we believe not in the message with which ye have been sent. They said, we have further in wealth and in sons, and we cannot be punished. Say, verily my Lord enlarges and restricts the provision to whom Allah pleases, but most men understand not. It is not your wealth nor your sons that will bring you nearer to us in degree, but only those who believe and work righteousness. These are the ones for whom there is a multiplied reward for their deeds, while secure they reside in the dwellings on high. Those who strive against our signs to frustrate them will be given over into punishment. Say, verily my Lord enlarges and restricts the sustenance to such of Allah's servants as Allah pleases, and nothing do ye spend in the least in Allah's cause, but Allah replaces it, for Allah is the best of those who grant sustenance. One day Allah will gather them all together and say to the angels, was it you that these men used to worship? They will say, glory to thee, our tie is with thee as protector, not with them. Nay, but they worship the jinns, most of them believed in them. So on the day no power shall they have over each other, for benefit or harm, and we shall say to the wrongdoers, taste ye the penalty of the fire, the which ye were wont to deny. When our clear signs are rehearsed to them, they say, this is only a man who wishes to hinder you from the worship which your fathers practice. And they say, this is only a falsehood invented, and the unbelievers say of the truth when it comes to them, this is nothing but evident magic. But we had not given them books which they could study, nor sent apostles to them before thee as warners. And their predecessors rejected the truth. These have not received a tenth of what we had granted to those. Yet when they rejected my apostles, how terrible was my rejection of them. Say, I do admonish you on one point, that ye do stand up before Allah. It may be in pairs, or it may be singly, and reflect within yourselves. Your companion is not possessed. He is no less than a warner to you in face of a terrible penalty. Say, no reward do I ask of you. It is all in your interest. My reward is only due from Allah, and Allah is witness to all things. Say, verily my Lord doth cast the mantle of truth over Allah's servants, Allah that has full knowledge of all that is hidden. Say, the truth has arisen, and falsehood neither creates anything new nor restores anything. Say, if I am astray, I only stray to the loss of my own soul, but if I receive guidance, it is because of the inspiration of my Lord. To me it is Allah who hears all things, and it is ever near. If thou couldst but see when they will quake with terror, but then there will be no escape for them, and they will be seized from a position quite near. And they will say, we do believe now in the truth, but how could they receive faith from a position so distantly off, seeing that they did reject faith entirely before, and that they continually cast slanders on the unseen from a position distantly off. And between them and their desires is placed a barrier, as was done in the past with their partisans, for they were indeed in suspicious, disquieting doubt. Surah Al-Fatir. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, who created out of nothing the heavens and the earth, who made the angels messengers with wings, 2 or 3 or 4 pairs. Allah adds to creation as Allah pleases, for Allah has power over all things. What Allah out of Allah's mercy doth bestow on mankind, there is none can withhold. What Allah doth withhold, there is none can grant apart from Allah, and Allah is the exalted and powerful of wisdom. O men, call to mind the grace of Allah unto you. Is there a creator other than Allah to give you sustenance from heaven or earth? There is none other deity but Allah. How then are ye deluded away from the truth? And if they reject thee, so were apostles rejected before thee. To Allah back for decision. Go to Allah. Go back for decision all affairs. O men, certainly the promise of Allah is true. Let not then this present life deceive you, nor let the chief deceiver deceive you about Allah. Verily Satan is an enemy to you, so treat him as an enemy. He only invites his adherents that they may become companions of the blazing fire. For those who reject Allah is a terrible penalty, but for those who believe and work righteous deeds is forgiveness and a magnificent reward. Is he then to whom the evil of his conduct is made alluring, so that he looks upon it as benevolent, equal to one who is rightly guided? For Allah leaves to stray whom Allah wills, and guides whom Allah wills, so that not thy soul go out in vainly sighing after them. For Allah knows well all that they do. It is Allah who sends forth the winds, so that they raise up the clouds, and we drive them to a land that is dead, and revive the earth therewith after its death. Even so will be the resurrection. If any do seek for glory and power, to Allah belong all glory and power. To Allah mount up all words of purity. It is Allah who exalts each deed of righteousness. Those that lay plots of evil, for them is a penalty terrible, and the plotting of such will be void of result. And Allah did create you from dust, then from a sperm drop. Then Allah made you in pairs, and no female conceives or lays down her load, but with Allah's knowledge. Nor is a man long-lived, granted length of days, nor is a part cut off from his life, but is in a decree ordained. All this is easy to Allah. Nor are the 2 bodies of flowing water alike, the one palatable, sweet, and pleasant to drink, and the other salt and bitter. Yet from each kind of water do ye eat flesh, fresh and tender, and ye extract ornaments to wear. And thou seest the ships therein that plow the waves, that ye must seek thus of the bounty of Allah, that ye may be grateful. Allah merges night into day, and Allah merges day into night, and Allah has subjected the soleil and the moon to Allah's law. Each one runs its course for a time appointed. Such is Allah your God. To Allah belongs all dominion, and those whom ye invoke besides Allah have not the least power. If ye invoke them, they will not listen to your call, and if they were to listen, they cannot answer your prayer on the day of judgment. They will reject your partnership, and none, O man, can tell thee the truth like the one who is acquainted with all things. O ye men, it is ye that have need of Allah, but Allah is the one free of all wants. Worthy of all praise. If Allah so pleased, Allah could blot you out and bring in a new creation, nor is that at all difficult for Allah. Nor can a bearer of burdens bear another's burdens. If one heavily laden should call another to bear his load, not the least portion of it can be carried by the other, even though he be nearly related. Thou canst not but admonish such as fear their Lord unseen, and establish regular prayer, and whoever purifies himself does so for the benefit of his soul, and the destination of all is to Allah. The blind and the seeing are not alike, nor are the depths of darkness and the light, nor are the chilly shade and the genial heat of the soleil. Nor are alike those that are living and those that are dead. Allah can make any that Allah wills to hear, but thou canst not make those to hear who are buried in graves. Thou art no other than a warner. Verily we have sent thee in truth as a bearer of glad tidings and as a warner, and there never was a people without a warner, having lived amongst them in the past. And if they reject thee, so did their predecessors, to whom came their apostles with clear signs, books of dark prophecies, and the book of enlightenment. In the end did I punish those who rejected faith, and how terrible was my rejection of them. Seest thou not that Allah sends down rain from the sky? With it we then bring out produce of various colors, and in the mountains are tracks white and red, of various shades of color, and black intense in hue. And so amongst men and crawling creatures and cattle are they of various colors. Those truly fear Allah amongst Allah's servants, for who have knowledge, for Allah is exalted in power, oft forgiving. Those who rehearse the book of Allah, establish regular prayer and spend in charity out of what we have provided for them, secretly and openly, have hope for a commerce that will never fail, for Allah will pay them their meed. Nay, Allah will give them even further out of Allah's bounty, for Allah is all forgiving, most ready to appreciate service. That which we have revealed to thee of the book is the truth, confirming what was revealed before it, for Allah is assuredly, with respect to Allah's servants, well acquainted and fully observant. Then we have given the book for inheritance to such of our servants as we have chosen, but there are amongst them some who wrong their own souls, some who follow a middle course, and some who are, by Allah's leave, foremost in benevolent deeds. That is the highest grace. Gardens of eternity will they enter, therein they will abandon with bracelets of gold and pearls, and their garments will be of silk. And they will say, Praise be to Allah, who has removed from us all sorrow, for our Lord is indeed all forgiving, ready to appreciate service, who has out of Allah's bounty settled us in a home that will last. No toil nor sense of weariness shall touch us therein. But those who reject Allah, for them will be the fire of hell. No term shall be determined for them, so they should die, nor shall its penalty be lightened for them. Thus do we reward every grateful one. Therein will the cry aloud for assistance, Our Lord, bring us out. We shall work righteousness, not the deeds we used to do. Did we not give you a long enough life so that he that would receive admonition? And further, the warner came to you, so taste ye the fruits of your deeds. For the wrongdoers there is no helper. Verily, Allah knows all the hidden things of the heavens and the earth. Verily, Allah has full knowledge of all that is in men's hearts. Allah it is that has made you inheritors in the earth. If then any do reject Allah, their rejection works against themselves. Their rejection but adds to the odium for the unbelievers in the sight of their Lord. Their rejection but adds to their own undoing. Say, have ye seen these partners of yours whom ye call upon besides Allah? Show me what it is they have created in the wide earth. Or have they share in the heavens? Or have we given them a book from which they can derive clear evidence? Nay, the wrongdoers promise each other nothing but delusions. It is Allah who sustains the heavens and the earth, lest they cease to function, and if they should fail, there is none, not one, can sustain them thereafter. Verily, Allah is most forgiving, Allah is most forbearing, oft forgiving. They swore their strongest oaths by Allah that if a warner came to them, they would follow his guidance better than any other of the people. But when a warner came to them, it has only increased their flight from righteousness, on account of their arrogance in the land and their plotting of evil. But the plotting of evil will hem in only the authors thereof. Now are they but looking for the way the ancients were dealt with. But no change will thou find in Allah's way of dealing, no turning off will thou find in Allah's way of dealing. Do they not travel through the earth and see what was the end of those before them, though they were superior to them in strength? Nor is Allah to be frustrated by anything whatever in the heavens or on earth, for Allah is all-knowing, all-powerful. If Allah were to punish men according to what they deserve, Allah would not leave on the back of the earth a single living creature, but Allah gives them respite for a stated term. When their term expires, verily Allah has in Allah's sight all Allah's servants. Kitab Yaqdas, verse 153 a 171. Should anyone wax angry with you, respond to him with gentleness, and should anyone upbraid you, forbear to upbraid him in return, but leave him to himself, and put your trust in God, the omnipotent avenger, the Lord of might and justice. Ye have been prohibited from making utilization of pulpits. Whoso wisheth to recite unto you the verses of his Lord, let him sit on a chair placed on a dais, that he may make mention of God his Lord, and the Lord of all mankind. It is pleasing to God that ye should seat yourselves on chairs and benches as a mark of honor, for the love ye bear of God, and for the manifestation of God's glorious and resplendent cause. Gambling and the utilization of opium have been forbidden unto you. Eschew them both, O people, and be not of those who transgress. Beware of utilizing any substance that induceth sluggishness and torpor in the human temple, and inflicteth harm upon the body. We verily desire for you naught save what shall benefit you, and to this bear witness all created things, had ye but ears to hear. Whensoever ye be invited to a banquet or festive occasion, respond with joy and gladness, and whoever fulfilleth his promise will be safe from reproof. This is a day on which each of God's wise decrees hath been expounded. Behold, the mystery of the great reversal in the sign of the sovereign hath not been made manifest. Well is it with him whom God hath aided to recognize the six raised up by virtue of this upright Aleph. He verily is of those whose faith is true. How many the outwardly pious who have turned away, and how many the wayward who have drawn nigh, exclaiming, all praise be to thee, O thou, the desire of the worlds. In truth, it is in the hand of God to give what God willeth to whomsoever God willeth, and to withhold what God pleaseth to whomsoever God may wish. God knoweth in the inner secrets of the hearts, and the meaning hidden in a mocker''s wink. How many in embodiment of heedlessness who came unto us with purity of heart have we established upon the seat of our acceptance, and how many an exponent of wisdom have we in all justice consigned to the fire. We are in truth the one to judge. God it is who is the manifestation of God, doeth whatsoever God pleaseth, and abideth upon the throne of God, ordaineth whatsoever God chooseth. Blessed is the one who discovereth the fragrance of inner meanings from the traces of this pen, through whose movement the breezes of God are wafted over the entire creation, and through whose stillness the very essence of tranquility appeareth in the realm of being. Glorified be the All-Merciful, the revealer of so inestimable a bounty. Say, because he bore injustice, justice hath appeared on earth, and because he accepted abasement, the majesty of God hath shone forth amidst mankind. It hath been forbidden you to carry arms unless essential, and permitted you to attire yourselves in silk. The Lord hath relieved you as a bounty on God's part of the restrictions that formerly applied to clothing, and to the trim of the beard. God verily is the ordainer, the omniscient. Let there be not in your demeanor of which sound and upright minds would disapprove, and make not yourselves the playthings of the ignorant. Well is it with him who hath adorned himself with the vesture of seemly conduct and an honorable character. He is assuredly reckoned with those who aid their Lord through distinctive and outstanding deeds. Promote ye the development of the cities of God and God's countries, and glorify God therein in the joyous accents of God's well-favored ones. In truth, the heart of men are edified through the power of the tongue, even as houses and cities are built up by the hand and other means. We have assigned to every end a means for its accomplishment. Avail yourselves thereof, and place your trust and confidence in God, the omniscient, the all-wise. Blessed is the man that hath acknowledged his belief in God and in God's signs, and recognized that God shall not be asked of God's doings. Such a recognition hath been made by God the ornament of every belief, and its very foundation. Upon it must depend the acceptance of every benevolent deed. Fasten your eyes upon it, that haply the whisperings of the rebellious may not cause you to slip. For Were God to decree as lawful the thing which from time immemorial had been forbidden, and forbid that which had at all times been regarded as lawful, to none is given the right to question God's authority. Whoso will hesitate, though it be for less than a moment, should be regarded as a transgressor. Whoso hath not recognized the sublime and fundamental verity, and hath failed to attain this most exalted station, the winds of doubt will agitate him, and the sayings of the infidels will distract his soul. He that hath acknowledged this principle will be endowed with the most perfect constancy. All honor to this all glorious station, the remembrance of which adorneth every exalted tablet. Such is the teaching which God bestows on you, a teaching that will deliver you from all manner of doubt and perplexity, and enable you to attain unto salvation in both this world and the next. God verily is the ever forgiving, the most merciful. God it is who hath sent forth the messengers and sent down the books to proclaim there is none other deity but me, the Almighty, the All-Wise. O land of Kaf and Ra, we verily behold thee in a state displeasing unto God, and see proceeding from thee that which is inscrutable to any one save God, the omniscient, the all-informed. And we perceive that which secretly and stealthily diffuseth from thee. With us is the knowledge of all things inscribed in a lucid tablet. Sorrow not for that which hath been revealed, which hath befallen thee. Ere long will God raise up within thee men endued with mighty valor, who will magnify my name with such constancy that neither will they be deterred by the evil suggestions of the sacred, nor will they be kept back by the insinuations of the sowers of doubt. With their own eyes will they behold God, and with their own lives will they render God victorious. These truly are the ones who are steadfast. O concourse of holies, when my verses were sent down and my clear tokens were revealed, we found you behind the veils. This verily is a strange thing. Ye glory in my name, yet ye recognized me not at the time your Lord, the All-Merciful, appeared amongst you with proof and testimony. We have rent the veils asunder. Beware lest ye shut out the people by yet another veil. Pluck asunder the chains of vain imaginings in the name of the Lord of all men, and be not of the deceitful. Should ye turn to God in remembrance and embrace God's cause, spread not disorder within it, and measure not the book of God with your selfish desires. This verily is the counsel of God, aforetime and hereafter, and to this God's witnesses, and chosen ones, yea, each and every one of us do solemnly attest. Call ye to mind the Sheikh, whose name was Muhammad Hassan, who ranked amongst the most learned holies of his day. When the true one was made manifest, this Sheikh, along with others of his calling, rejected him, whilst a sifter of wheat and barley accepted him and turned unto the master. Though he was occupied both night and day in setting down what he conceived to be the laws and ordinances of God, yet when God, who is the unconstrained, appeared, not one letter thereof availed him, or he would not have turned away from a countenance that hath illuminated the faces of the well-favored of the Lord. Had ye believed in God when God revealed God's self, the people would not have turned aside from God, nor would the things ye witness today have befallen us. Fear God, and be not of the heedless. Beware lest any name debar you from God, who is the possessor of all names, and any word shut you out from the remembrance of God, the source of wisdom amongst you. Turn unto God and seek God's protection, O concourse of holies, and make not of yourselves a veil between me and my creatures. Thus doth your Lord admonish you and command you to be just, and lest your work should come to naught, and ye yourselves be oblivious of your plight. Shall he who denieth this cause be able to vindicate the truth of any cause throughout creation? Nay, by God, who is the fashioner of the universe. Yet the people are wrapped in a palpable veil. Say, through this cause the day star of testimony hath dawned, and the luminary of proof hath shed its radiance upon all that dwell on earth. Fear God, O men of insight, and be not of those who disbelieve in me. Take heed lest the word prophet withhold you from this most great announcement, or any reference to vice-regency to bar you from the sovereignty of him who is the vice-regent of God, which overshadoweth all the words. Every name hath been created by God's word, and every cause is dependent on God's irresistible, God's mighty and wondrous cause. Say, this is the day of God, the day on which naught shall be mentioned save God's own self, the omnipotent protector of all the worlds. This is the cause that hath made all your superstitions and idols to tremble. We verily see amongst you him who taketh hold of the book of God, and citeth from its proofs and arguments wherewith to repudiate his Lord, even as the followers of every other faith sought reasons in their holy books for refuting God, who is the help in peril, the self-subsisting. Say, God, the true one, is my witness that neither the scriptures of the world nor all the books and writings in existence shall in this day avail you aught without this, the living book, who proclaimeth in the midmost heart of creation, there is none other deity but me, the all-knowing, the all-wise. All concourse of the divines, beware lest ye be the cause of strife in the land, even as ye were the cause of the repudiation of the faith in its early days. Gather the people around this word that hath made the peoples to cry out. The sovereignty is God's, the dawning place of all signs. Thus doth your Lord admonish you as a bounty on God's part. God of a truth is the ever forgiving, the most generous. Call ye to mind Karim, and how when we summoned him unto God, he waxed disdainful, prompted by his own desires. Yet we had sent him that which was a solace to the eye of proof in the world of being, and the fulfillment of God's testimony to all the denizens of earth and heaven. As a token of the grace of God, who is the all-possessing, the Most High, we bade him remembrance with the truth, but he turned away, until, as an act of justice from God, angels of wrath laid hold upon him. Until this, we truly were a witness. Tear the veils asunder, in such wise that the inmates of the sovereignty will hear them being rent. This is the command of God in days gone by, and for those to come. Blessed is the man that observeth that whereunto he was forbidden, and woe betide the negligent. Alhamdulillah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Allahu Akbar. 道可道，非诚道；名可名，非诚名。Já Rastafari. Deus nos tequies in cele santo facito nomen tuum, vahe guru sanam. Baruch ata Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kasanu b'mitzotav v'tzivanu l'sok b'divai Torah. Amen. Baruch ata Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri agafim. Amen. Kyrie eleison, sevamas tu savigatehe, sabe sata bovantu sukitata. Vagabiyam. Aqua ba upendo na amani, fikiri na salami, chinda dan para me, leba me wumajikam. Ubuntu shubana fakitkam. Shishin, como selina, domo argato, pelama yellow wakato, toko lokashingun, gomanagan, go, thank you for the buses. Ata jama yata fanami, madom, the home, the shanti, amen. Honor and respect to His Majesty Haile Selassie I. Honor and respect to Her Majesty Wazir Rahman. All thanks and praise to the Most High Elohim Jah. Blessed love and peace.